Hello everyone, I'm Eric, and today I want to show you how to fix a leaking outdoor garden hose faucet. For the past couple weeks I've noticed that when I turn my garden hose off, I get a puddle in the backyard leaking out of the end of the hose. So as we're approaching winter here, I need to fix that so that when it actually gets cold out, I don't get a frozen pipe or ice in front of my patio, the back door, or have any other problems with water. So what I found is that when I turn the water all the way off here, you can see it's still dripping out of the faucet, and that is all the way off. So what I'm going to do is take that faucet apart, take a look inside. It's probably a leaking seal. There's rubber washers in there. First thing I got to do though is go inside the house and shut the water off. So when I pull this faucet apart, it's not just pouring water out. So let's go do that first, and then we'll take the faucet apart. Alright, so I am by my water valve that comes in from outside from the city water system. So the first thing you always want to do before you take any faucet apart is make sure that there is no water pressure through that faucet, or else you can have big problems and it can turn into a emergency water situation pretty quick. So what I'm going to do is just reach down here, turn this valve off. There we go. That way. And then since I got a sink here, let's turn the sink on. And you should see pretty quick that the water pressure just dies right off. So there we go. No more water pressure in the house. Now we can take that faucet apart and it's not going to blow water everywhere. Alright, so now I have turned the water off, and you can see, you can see it's actually like almost entirely stopped dripping. But the other thing I want to do is just turn the valve on, probably get a little bit of water coming out initially. Just as the last little bit of pressure bleeds off, but you can see valve's open and we're just getting a trickle, so obviously the water is off. We'll give that a second to kind of trickle out, then pull this valve apart. And the valve's actually pretty easy to get apart here. You can see there's just like a big nut here on the valve. So we're just going to put a wrench on that, and then twist it, and that's just going to pull the whole valve mechanism out of here. It's actually a pretty simple repair, but if you haven't seen it before, if you haven't done it before, it can be a little intimidating the first time that you do it. We don't need to wait for it to stop because this whole part is actually going to stay here where it is. We're just pulling this last little bit out. So here we go, let's take it apart. So I use a adjustable wrench here, because then we can just put it on, find the right size. Oops. There we go, easy as that. And twist it apart. Now one thing that you want to do before you start moving this, kind of like I already did, loosening this valve up. So for one, of course, it lets the water out, but for another thing, that takes the pressure off of the inside where it's actually sealing. So now this whole assembly can turn easier, whereas if this was tight, you'd kind of be fighting yourself as you pull that, as you loosen this and get ready to pull it out. But it doesn't take much to loosen it up. You can see I can turn it by hand now. And there we go. So you can see how far it actually goes inside. And look at that, there's our problem. There's essentially no gasket on there anymore holding it together. So we'll get a new gasket and get it back together again. But yeah, that was just sealing basically metal on metal in there instead of against a gasket like it should. So obviously a problem. Alright, so to change this gasket here, I've got a selection of a couple different kinds of gaskets. These ones are tapered. These ones are not tapered, they're just flat. Either one would probably actually work here. I think that this is supposed to have a tapered gasket, so we'll see how those fit. But all we need to do is pull this screw out first. And this screw really just holds that gasket in place and lets you change the gaskets. so you don't need to replace the whole spigot when you have this problem. There's not a whole lot of gasket left here. That guy looks pretty crunched. Now a lot of times on the edge they'll have a number that tells you what size gasket it is. This one does not on the back side. It may on the front side, but it's so pinched down that you really just can't tell. But there's an indented area here that we can kind of just see, you know, what gasket fits that. Actually, this is pretty good. This one fits nice. So that is a 1/4. I also have 1/4, I'm sure. In this design, maybe. No, these may all be 3/8. Yeah, it's a 3/8. A whole bin of 3/8. Alright, so let's put this 1/4 on there. It fits good, it looks good. See, it actually kind of sits right in there. Now if you have a faucet that doesn't have that indentation anymore, it may be damaged. And replacing the gasket will fix it for a while, but it's not going to be a long-term fix. If that's the case, you may need to replace this valve, or maybe even the whole spigot if you can't get the valve separately. Putting a new gasket on would at least fix it temporarily. So let's tighten that down. There we go. Yeah, so you can see how nice and plush this is compared to this other one that just doesn't have any area left. So now that's all that we have to do, and we can put this back into the spigot again, and our water leak should be repaired. Alright, so now that we have a new gasket on here, you can see there, looks much better than our old one. A lot more material for it to compress against the valve and seal better, where the old one's just kind of hardened and is smushed, worn out. So this one should fix our problem. So let's go ahead and put this back into the spigot and see how it does. Alright, so I'm just going to slide it back in there. Oh, another thing to check while it's apart here, you can see that there's a little seal right here. You just want to take a look at that and make sure that it's not damaged. You can almost always reuse these, but you do want to take a look at it every time, and if it is damaged, get a new one. If it's not damaged, just put it back together and you really won't have a problem. So you're going to gently slide it in there. You don't want to force it, just kind of feel for where there's not resistance, and it'll slide right in. We'll go hand tight as far as we can. And again, at this stage, you want to make sure that the valve is open, so as we tighten it down, it's not going to be fighting against itself. Then we'll grab our wrench, put that on there, and tighten it down. And it just needs to be snug. Again, you've got that seal, that washer that's right on the outer edge here. You just need to snug it against that. You don't need to crank it down. If you tighten it too hard, you may crack the body here, the cast body. It doesn't take much to seal it, so don't go too tight and cause yourself other problems. Then, once that's tight, we can tighten this down to actually seal off the valve. And I'll tell you, that feels a lot better already. I can feel that it's compressing that gasket now compared to before. You just spin it and all of a sudden it's tight. And it was dripping, so it wasn't sealing. But now I can feel it compressing that gasket, so big improvement. So now I'm going to go back in the house, turn the water back on, and when I come out here, I expect that it's not going to be dripping, at least any more than the residual water that's been coming out. But we should not have that drip, 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 drip anymore like we used to. So I'm going to go turn the water back on. So we're back outside, and water is back on now. And you can see that we still just have the little residual drip. I mean, that's not because the valve's leaking, that's just because there's some water that's in this body still from when it was on before. But now if I turn it on, yeah, we've got water pressure again. I don't want to turn all the way on and spray myself, but we've got water, and if I turn it off, I'm going to get that residual drip for a minute, but then it's going to just stop. So it may take a minute or so, you know, for that water to work out of the valve, but we're out of the body here. But it's done dripping. I mean, it's an easy fix like that. You know, coming into the winter months, right now it's September in Michigan, it's starting to get a little bit chilly outside, but if I didn't fix this now, you know, it's a nice warm day today. I've got a light sweatshirt on, but it's a really nice day. If I got into November, December, and needed to fix this, it'd be a lot more difficult, but especially when it starts to get to freezing temperatures. If I've got a hose connected to this, and that's full of water because it's dripping, then this hose is going to freeze, it's going to freeze the valve, it's going to probably crack the housing, then you've got a much more difficult repair. Or if I don't have a hose on here, it's going to be dripping water on my patio, it still could freeze, but I'm going to have ice on the patio then, and I don't want that. Obviously that's dangerous. So quick, easy fix. If you have a leaking spigot, easy to do yourself, just take it apart, see if you can put a gasket in it. I hope this video was useful. Please subscribe to my channel, like the video, show your friends. I've got lots of other videos on here also showing how to fix small equipment and other things around the house. So I hope this is helpful to you. Have a great day, everyone.